Hey everybody, Jason here with the Landlord Launch. Today we're going to be talking about all things late fees. So why charge late fees? Well, first and foremost, we want people to pay their rent in full and on time. There's a lot of reasons for this. I mean, some people look at the income from late fees as a plus, but I personally don't. And the reason being is because it creates an instability for me. I like to know that that person is going to pay their rent, and every time they pay late, I start to wonder, am I going to get that rent? And if it happens fairly regularly, then I start to just feel really kind of unstable about them as a tenant and their ability to pay rent. I'm wondering if anything else is going on, and I just don't like that. I would much rather have rent in full and on time, and because I want to pay my bills. I don't want to have to worry about coming out of pocket for my mortgages, taxes, insurance, any of the shared utilities, any of the expenses of the property is not something I want to do. So getting that rent in full and on time is very important to me. So late fees are a way to incentivize that, kind of in a negative way. It's a negative incentivization. So really, late fees are meant to be a deterrent and meant to be painful, and it's not. When I say painful, I don't mean unreasonable, but if you have a $5 late fee and that's it, tenant's not really going to take that seriously. They're not going to worry about it. If it comes down to them deciding who gets paid first, that's not going to produce the squeaky wheel effect. So if their car payment has a $300 late fee and yours is $5, the car payment's getting paid first. So again, I don't want to be unreasonable here, but I want to set them enough to where it makes an impact to them financially and makes them think twice about paying their rent late, while at the same time staying in that enough of a reasonable zone that if it ever were to go to court or whatever, it wouldn't just get thrown out right away. So for example, you don't want to charge a $1,000 late fee. Well, in some states you can't, depending on your laws. There's caps and limits on that, so make sure to know those as well. But I do want them high enough to where for every day that they don't pay, it's making them sweat. It's creating that urgency in their mind. So again, it's a deterrent and it's meant to be painful. And I don't, like I said before, I don't want income from the late fees. I want the rent in full and on time. It's a much better situation. So that is why I do that. And there's a couple different ways you can do this. We'll go into the structures and stuff as we go through the video. Next, let's talk about grace periods though. So a grace period is just basically the number of days or the period of time that you're going to allow that rent to be late before there's financial consequences. So let's just say that you give a 4-day grace period. Rent's due on the 1st. You give a 4-day grace period, which means after the 5th or the 6th day of the month is when late fees come in. It doesn't mean rent isn't late on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. It just means that you're not charging any late fees. Now, some states have minimum grace periods that you have to give, so make sure to know your state laws on that. I've seen anywhere from 5 days, and I think I saw one state as much as you have to give them 30 days before you could take certain actions in terms of a grace period. So make sure you know what you're dealing with there. Now, on the structure of the late fees, there are a couple different ways that you can do it. There's a couple different standard ways that you can do it. There's the flat fees, there's a percentage base, there's a daily, and then there's a mix. So an example of the flat fee may be, let's just say that we're not going to do a grace period in these examples, but let's say rent's due on the 1st, and a flat fee would be on the 2nd. If rent isn't paid, you would charge them an amount, $50, $100, $200, whatever it is. The percentage is similar, but it's just a percentage of the rent that is charged. So on the 2nd, let's just say if it's 10%, then of course it'd be 10% of the rent. So if it's $1,000 rent, then it'd be $100 would be your late fee if it's a 10% flat fee. Now the daily late fees is usually a flat fee that is charged for every day that the rent is past due. So let's say you have a $5 daily late fee, and On the second comes by, you get charged $5. On a third, rent's not paid, $5. Fourth, $5. Fifth, $5. You get the point there. What I personally like to do is a combination of either a flat, a percentage, and then a daily. So let's say that no grace period again. The second comes maybe a $50 flat fee. So rent's due on the first. They don't pay on the second. It's a $50 flat fee out of the gate. And then every day after that is a $5 or a $10 fee. So that's kind of an example of what a mixed structure looks like there. And the reason I like this is because one, it creates that kind of painful deterrent effect. And then the date on that first one, the $50 or the $100, that's the large hit. And then every day after that, it starts to accumulate. So it keeps it urgent. So, I mean, for me, in my experience, even if there's, let's just say, a $50 flat fee on the second, then if there's nothing else after that, the tenant may be like, well, I've already hit it, so let me deal with these more important vendors or debts that I have to pay, car payment, rent to own, whatever else. With the daily fee on that, what that does is it keeps it first and foremost in their mind, creates urgency, and it creates an incentive to get it paid sooner than later to get that daily late fee to stop. Okay, so some of the ways that we want to communicate this. So first and foremost, have your late fee policy in your lease agreement, of course. Have it outlined and follow it consistently. So, and don't change between tenants. If you don't have a grace period and rent's due on the first and the $50 late fee, the flat fee is due, gets charged on the second, charge it for every tenant you have on the second every single month and for every tenant that's ever late. Same with the daily fees, because you want to keep this consistent. You want to make sure to stay out of fair housing trouble when it comes to applying late fees. Another place I like to include this is in the welcome letter, the welcome packet, the new tenant welcome letter, just explaining again what the late fee policy is. Another thing I like to do in the lease agreement as well is I like to set the policy that all the oldest charge will be paid first. So what I ran into in the past is not just with late fees, but damages or whatever else, we would charge the tenant account and then a tenant would come in and say, oh, well, here's my rent. I wanted to apply towards July rent. And we would apply it to the oldest charge first, but then it would end up being an issue. So what we did was we outlined it in the lease agreement. We outlined that as well in the welcome packet, saying that we are going to apply whatever monies we receive to the oldest charge first. That way damages and late fees and all of that cannot go unpaid, at least as part of your policy. And again, it's a way to have something in writing that you can apply consistently as well, showing that you treat everybody the same. And then what happens is if they refuse to pay the late fees or they refuse to pay the damages or whatever else, if you apply it to the oldest charges first, what that ends up doing is it creates a delinquency on their current rent, which then you can post your 3-day notice for non-payment of rent and you can move forward with the eviction process if you have to there. So it gives you a little bit of leverage as well by having that policy in place. You can also have your policy or at least a reminder of your policy in your balance reminders or any type of automatic renewal notices, email reminders. Now, I don't necessarily put the exact policy out, but I will mention in there on a balance reminder automatic email, hey, make sure to come in and take care of this because your daily fees are accruing, something along those lines. So it reminds them that, the longer they wait, the more this is going to cost them, and that, that's still a lingering issue. So those are some of the ways I like to communicate about the late fees as well, and I think that's important. One other thing, if you decide to, just to touch on it real quick, if you decide to ever waive a late fee for somebody, make sure that you somehow or another systemize that and make that a policy. Because again, if you do it for one person, you're going to want to do it for everybody. And I would have the conditions like you would, for example, you could say, I will waive $50 in late fees or the daily, the flat fee one time in a 6-month rolling period. If a payment agreement is arranged, or whatever it may be. But whatever that is, make sure it is in writing. Make sure it's like a policy and something you can consistently apply across the board. So that's it. That's what I have on the late fee structures, kind of how we approach them, some different examples of how to apply them, how to communicate about them, why they're important, and all of that fun stuff. So thank you once again for watching. Please let me know if you have any questions, and we will see you next time.